do so. Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, the former national security advisor to the president, the vice president of the United States. Great book, War by Other Means, a general in the Trump White House. General, always good to see you. We ironed out a lot of the issues with China, and again, we see an increase in provocative behavior. It's particularly escalated over the past year. So if you were President Biden, General, what would you be saying about this?
Yeah, well, Neil, thanks for having me. Look, the first thing, if I was the president, which I'm not, the first thing I'd bring up is COVID, because I think the big issue out there is who was responsible for COVID, the origins of COVID. We've had over 100,000, hundreds of thousands of Americans killed, millions in the world killed, and I think we need to come down and find out who exactly was responsible for it. Did it come out of the Wuhan Institute of Virology? Was it gain-of-function reseach?
But they're not going to help us with that, right, General? They're not going to bother helping us with that, right? Neil, I don't think they are. I think they're trying to avoid it and walk away from it. And I think it's very, very important. But the second issue out there is Taiwan. It's very clear that the Chinese are sending us a signal. The signal they're sending was actually that overhead photography that everybody picked up, which showed some of our carriers as targets in the middle of the desert. They're sending us a message, is don't close your carrier battle groups into the Western Pacific, because we can harm them. And we're not sending any messages back. At least with Donald Trump, he would tweet something out and you get some type of message back. We're just receiving his messages, and we're not sending a hard message back either to the Chinese. And oh, by the way, we're not sending one back to the Russians either, when you're seeing what they're doing with mobilization of troops around the Ukraine and the Donbass region. So I think it's going to be an interesting discussion. Those were issues I'd bring up. I just don't think that President Biden is going to really push hard on President Xi. They've known each other for over 10 years, and I think it's kind of a go along, get along, and I don't think we're going to press hard. I think we need to treat China as an adversary and acknowledge that and understand there's competition out there, military and economic, and we need to get to the bottom of some very key issues. The primary one, I think, is COVID. Do you think, General, that the Chinese prefer President Biden to Donald Trump? Because at least with Donald Trump, say what you will of him, he was unpredictable. He was a tough trade negotiator. They're glad to be rid of him.
Yeah, I think they are, Neil. Look, there's some value to being unpredictable, because it actually puts some question in the adversary's mind of what you're actually thinking and what you're going to do. I think President Biden is very, very predictable. I'm a big believer in patterns in life. What I mean by patterns is you go to the same grocery store, you go to the same service station to get gas. Biden is very predictable in what he has done historically. And I think they see that. The Chinese are very astute, and they look at him and they can understand him and they can read him. They couldn't read Donald J. Trump. And that really helped the United States of America, because they always had to question, what will this guy really do? I think they know what Biden's going to do. And very candidly, Neil, it's nothing.
It's interesting. You write, the radicals attacking President Trump's legacy are sacrificing sound policy to politics. I'm making the leap here, but you also seem to be hinting countries like China love that. They love the discord that ensues as a result.
Yeah, you have to look at China as a competitor. That's what President Trump did. We knew that economically, we do that militarily, and he would really, is the term we used to use, is press the envelope pretty hard. And Biden has not done that. And I think because of that, they respect that. And when you have respect, it forces them to act and perform in a different way. They don't do that with President Biden. Look, I will tell you, Neil, we would have never seen the incursions, the air incursions, the volume that we've seen into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. When they're putting over 130 aircraft into that zone on a daily basis, that's another real signal. And there's a way we can counter that, and there's a way we should have countered it. I think what Trump would have done, he would have notified the 5th Carrier Battle Group with the USS Ronald Reagan, and it's kind of parked in the middle of the Taiwan Straits, and said to the Chinese, just knock this off, just stop it. The intimidation tactics are just not going to work.
General, while I have you here, you are aware that Steve Bannon surrendered himself to authorities on the charge of contempt of Congress. He's been indicted by a jury.
Yeah.
Mark Meadows, the former chief of staff, will likely face the same fate because he's resistant testifying before that January 6th committee. You are one of about 10 other prominent Republicans who served, obviously, in the Trump administration who've been called to testify. Are you?
I'm going to leave that up to my lawyers. I've got an exceptionally good lawyer that it's fun to work with, and we're just going to watch this thing roll. And I'm a ways down before they call me, and we'll just see how it plays out.
A lot of it seems, it's more likely than not that those who've been called to testify won't, and that they're arguing, as an appeals court has allowed, that the administration is perfectly within its rights to withhold information, documents, and anything pertaining to the president, what he was thinking, doing, saying at the time of that insurrection, whatever you want to call it. And so the message has gone out, don't appear before the committee. Have you gotten any message like that, General?
No, I've not gotten any message at all, and I haven't talked to anybody about that. The fact is, Neil, very candidly, I don't believe it was an insurrection at all. It was a mob gone bad. But I was in the Oval Office, and I did talk to the president, and I think those conversations are between me and the president of the United States.
Got it. All right. I had to ask, and you answered. Thank you, General. Always good seeing you. Keith Kellogg, a war by other means, a general in the Trump White House. It does give you a good view. It's sort of right in the close to the powers that be view of life in that White House. And some of the things you think